By the end of My Dearest Assassin, Lan finally escapes the people who spent her entire life treating her blood like a commodity. But freedom comes at a devastating cost, because nearly everyone who truly loved her dies protecting her first. And the ending ultimately transforms the story from one about a hunted child into the birth of a new assassin. The entire story revolves around one thing: Oran blood. The film explains that it's one of the rarest blood types in existence, making it incredibly valuable to powerful people desperate to survive illness or injury. That instantly turns Lan into something terrifying in the eyes of the criminal underworld. Not a child, not a person, but a resource. That's why so many groups hunt her across Asia, and it's also why House 89 keeps her locked away. At first, House 89 seems different from the other criminals, but eventually the truth becomes clear. Even the people protecting Lan are still using her. One of the biggest emotional twists comes when Lan learns why she was really brought into House 89. The reason is Pran. He suffers from hemophilia and depends on Oran blood to survive, and Lan's blood is uniquely compatible with his condition. This completely changes the meaning of her entire childhood, because suddenly all the kindness she received feels complicated. Did they love her, or were they preserving her? The painful answer is both. That's what makes the reveal work emotionally. House 89 genuinely becomes her family, but that family was still built around exploitation. Even Pran, who truly loves her, is connected to the system trapping her there. During the attack on House 89, Pran desperately resists the transfusion. That moment matters because it separates him from everyone else around him. While others see Lan's blood as necessary for survival, Pran sees the emotional cost of taking it. He would rather die than let her continue being treated like an object. That's the moment where love finally becomes stronger than survival instinct. And it proves something important. Pran never wanted ownership over Lan, he wanted freedom from her. The destruction of House 89 represents the collapse of the only world the characters have ever known. On the surface, the house functions like a family, but underneath, it's still an assassin organization, a prison, and a system built on violence. Even Pran's father believes survival requires sacrifice and freedom. That ideology defines the entire house, so when it explodes, the story symbolically destroys that philosophy too. The survivors are finally forced to ask themselves, can they live without constantly being controlled by fear? After everything she loses, Lan makes the story's most important decision. She asks to become an assassin. At first, this feels tragic, because she seems to be entering the same violent cycle that destroyed her life. But emotionally, the choice means something deeper. For the first time ever, Lan chooses something for herself. Her entire existence has been controlled by others. Kidnapped as a child, hidden inside House 89, hunted for her blood, and used to save powerful people. Learning to fight becomes her attempt to reclaim agency. Not because she loves violence, but because weakness has only ever made her vulnerable. The training scenes reflect that transformation perfectly. She slowly evolves from someone protected by others into someone capable of protecting herself. Near the climax, the story completely reverses its central dynamic. For years, Lan gives blood to keep Pran alive, but when she's dying after being shot, Pran gives his own blood back to her. This is one of the film's most important symbolic moments, because for the first time, the blood is not transactional, it's not forced, it's not exploitation. It becomes an act of unconditional love. Pran gives his life back to her, and afterward Lan says something deeply important. His blood now flows inside her too. That line transforms blood from a symbol of exploitation into a symbol of connection. M's death is heartbreaking because he represents the emotional core of the surviving group. He loves Lan too, but unlike many characters in stories like this, he never tries to possess her. Instead, he accepts that she truly loves Pran. His final fight against Chaba becomes an act of selfless protection, and in his last moments, he tells Pran to survive for Lan's sake. That's what finally turns the survivors into something more than assassins. They become a real family, even if that family only exists briefly before tragedy destroys it. Pran dies after finally doing the one thing he always wanted, giving Lan freedom. Throughout the film, he struggles with guilt over House 89 and the role he unknowingly played in trapping her there. But in the end, he breaks the cycle. Instead of taking from her, he gives everything to her. His death also fulfills the question he asked earlier. Would she stay with him once she became strong enough to survive on her own? Ironically, she does. Not physically, but emotionally, because even after death, Pran becomes part of her forever. The final scenes shift away from violence entirely. Lan returns to Vietnam and she now has a son. More importantly, her son inherited the Oran blood. At first, this sounds terrifying because it suggests the cycle could begin again. But the ending changes the meaning completely. And like the adults who controlled her childhood, Lan vows her son will never be exploited for his blood. That promise is the true emotional resolution of the film, because the story isn't really about blood itself. It's about ownership, and for the first time, Lan controls her own future. The mid-credits scene reveals one final transformation. The hunter survived, but before he can hunt Lan again, she finds him first. This completely flips the power dynamic from the beginning of the story. As a child, Lan was helpless. Hunters controlled her fate, and others decided whether she lived or died. Now she becomes the predator instead. The suitcase containing the hunter's old pistol is especially important. It forces him to confront the past violence that shaped her life. And when Lan kills him effortlessly, the film confirms something chilling. She's truly become an assassin, not just emotionally, but professionally. The ending of My Dearest Assassin is ultimately about reclaiming identity after a lifetime of exploitation. Lan represents transformation. She begins the story as a frightened child treated like living property. She ends it as someone who finally owns herself. But the ending is intentionally bittersweet, because freedom costs her almost everyone she loves. And although she escapes exploitation, she also inherits the violent world that created her. That final assassination scene makes the message clear. Lan survived, but survival changed her forever. And the film leaves us with one final unsettling question. In a world where violence is the only path to freedom, can anyone truly escape becoming part of it?